So for number 11, we need to list the p factors. So that would be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, 24, and 48. So that's a lot of factors. Now the advantage here is that, one good thing about this one is that notice how all of the coefficients are positive, every single one of them. And your goal is to find a 0, right, with synthetic division. So there's no way that another positive from this list is going to give me a 0. So that's why I'm going to start with -1. So it's going to cut my work in half, and I'll get to the answer faster. So 1, 2, 11, 22, 24, 48, and then I'll just make that, because I don't know how long it's going to take to get to the 0, so I'm going to start with -1. But the reason I'm starting with negatives and not positives, I'm not even going to touch positives, because all of these coefficients are positive. And putting another positive in place of x is not going to give me a 0. Okay, so the only chance I have is negatives. So bring down the 1. 1 times -1, -1, plus 2 is 1. 1 times -1, -1, plus 11 is 10. 1 times, or -1 times 10 is -10, plus 22 is 12. -1 times 12 is -12, plus 24 is 12, and then -1 times 12 is -12, plus 48 gives me 36. So that one's not going to work. Try -2. Bring down the 1. 1 times -2, -2. -2 plus 2 is 0. 0 times -2 is 0. 0 plus 11 is 11. -2 times 11 is -22. -22 plus 22 is 0. 0 times -2 is 0. 0 plus 24 is 24. 24 times -2 is -48. Plus 48, that's 0. Okay, so that one worked. And what this means is that this polynomial right here is x to the 4th plus 11x squared plus 24. And notice how it's a trinomial where this power is twice as big as this power. So I'm going to see if it factors. So it does. 8 times 3 is 24, and it adds up to 11. So I've got x squared plus 8, x squared plus 3. Okay? And so the zeros, or the x values, the first one would be -2 from over here, from synthetic division. This one is going to be plus or minus, it's going to be a negative, right? A negative, an I. So square root of 8 is 2 radical 2. So plus or minus 2 radical 2i. And then this one, plus or minus radical 3i. And so there are your 5 zeros. Okay, 4 of them imaginary, 1 of them real. So I'm going to try the 2 by 2 because it's 4 terms, and it kind of looks like it's going to work, but I just want to double check it. So put in the terms in order in standard form. I can factor out in the first row x to the 4th. So that makes this one x squared, and this makes this 5. X squared times what gives you -4x squared, that gives me -4, and then -4 times 5 is -20, so it works. So my factors are x squared plus 5, x squared minus 4, 0. So my zeros, or my roots, are plus or minus square root of 5i, and then for the second factor, plus or minus 2. So 2 real and 2 imaginary. 13 looks like 12 in the structure, where you have 4 terms and even powers, and the coefficients look like it's going to work in this form, factor by grouping. So I'm going to try it. Okay, so the greatest common factor in the first row is x to the fourth. And so x squared times x to the fourth is x to the sixth. Negative 1 times x to the fourth is negative x to the fourth. And then right here, negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. And then negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. So that works. So I've got x squared minus 1, x to the fourth minus 1. So each of these factor some more. So I've got x plus 1, x minus 1, then x squared plus 1, and x squared minus 1. Okay, so this is going to be just a repeat of this, right? It's the same zeros. So then I have plus or minus 1, and then for this one it's going to be plus or minus I, because it's going to be the square root of negative 1. So 2 real and 4 imaginary. I'm sorry, backwards. 4 real and 2 imaginary. Because each of these here has a multiplicity of 2. Because I have zeros for them here. So here and here. So there's actually 4. So it's 2 zeros with multiplicity of 2. And then 2 imaginaries. So this looks like a trinomial that could factor like a quadratic. So factors of 25 that add up to negative 26 are negative 1 and negative 25. So I'm going to put x to the fourth minus 1 and x to the fourth minus 25. Okay, so you factor x squared plus 1, x squared minus 1, x squared plus 5, plus 5, not 25, plus 5, and then x squared minus 5. Okay, so you could factor some more, or just from here go straight to the answer. So x, for the first factor, it's plus or minus I. For the second factor, it's plus or minus 1. For the third factor, it's plus or minus square root of 5i. And for the last factor, it's going to be plus or minus square root of 5, no I. Right here. So this one has 4 real and 4 imaginary answers.